So what is the equivalent between a good bad idea and a bad good idea? Congratulations, you're the expert. Now on to the show. In the immortal words of the sensei from Chuck the Monk, being a Buddhist is about how to undefine the self. The moment you define yourself as a Buddhist, you automatically stop being one. So what does it mean to identify as a Buddhist? Beyond the acceptance of the above statement, in this 4-part video series, we hope to answer that question on a deeper level. So without further ado, Bonbu-Buddy's Guide to the Lion's Roar. So there are a lot of suttas with the term Sihanada in the title, and this usually translates to lion, or lion's roar. So basically, the Buddha gives a verbal smackdown to anybody slandering him, and he also gives monks and lay disciples some answers when people bring up objections to Buddhism. Now, collectively, they say a lot of things, but there are 4 basic ideas that we can get into here. One being that the Buddha and his Dharma can tell us what the consequences are to how we live our lives right now, and also what they'll be in the next life. Plus what society's consequences will be if those basic teachings are not adhered to. For example, in one sutta, the Buddha tells us that in a society where generosity and open-handedness aren't a thing, stealing becomes more common, and the attempts by a king to remedy that just end up with more problems. So it's better for society to be open-handed and generous than it is for a government to try and fix that artificially. This spirals into more and more problems, leading to the complete abandonment of morality whatsoever in a society. The same thing can be said for ourselves on the individual level in a small circle sort of way. Also, Buddha gives us this huge list of anything that could basically disqualify a teacher, at least in comparison to himself. So like, if you look at this list, a lot of these things I don't think would disqualify a teacher, but if we actually look at some of the things here, we can see some things we would definitely sympathize with. And the thing that I would argue pretty much underpins all this is that these alternative religious leaders to the Buddha are basically out for profit, and they're open to bribes, especially from political leaders who should be held accountable. Basically, other religious leaders are there for themselves, and the Buddha is here to end suffering for you. He's not here to huff paint and talk to Santa Claus on your behalf. Is that why I didn't get that pony? Yes, it is, Bad Buddy. You talked to the wrong weirdo. But he was behind a gas station and he smelled like fish and licorice. Well, he's not the one talking to Santa Claus. But that's what he said he was doing. Does he have a YouTube channel? I don't think so. Well, I'm not sure where your money went then. Anyway, the Buddha also goes into this rather extensive list of different ascetic practices that he did and took to the extremes necessary to find out that they don't work. Basically, the idea is any kind of ascetic thing that you and me could think of in order to end suffering or reach our highest selves or whatever the terminology is now, the Buddha probably already did it and realized that it didn't lead to anything except more suffering, because they all rely on clinging to a self that needs to be overcome. And the easiest way to do that is to admit that you can't. Lean into that as you say the words Namo Amida Butts. And then you repeat steps 1 through 3 in reverse. Hey look, I found his YouTube channel. The guy you were talking about? Yeah, look. Wow, he said the same thing the other guy did in a shorter amount of time. He probably really does talk to Santa Claus. I hear the more money you give him, the more likely it is to happen.